Week number 2 begins now on Local Roots. Good morning. I'm Todd Studer. Thrilled to have you along, and we had a really good week last week as we got this new podcast launched, and tons of great comments, and added a lot of followers too. So thank you to all of you, and welcome. If you have any ideas, any stories, any tips that you would like to see on this program, send me an email, toddstuder@gmail.com. You may have noticed that in a few of the comments that we had on the show, at least on Facebook, where you could see that. We're released on multiple platforms. But there was comments from an account called Growing Small Town Nebraska. And this is a podcast that is hosted by Sheila Jenkinson. And Sheila is, like me, ex-radio, and decided to get into podcasting and is doing great things supporting and promoting small communities around Nebraska. And I thought, you know what? We should reach a hand across the river and learn a little bit more. So I caught up with Sheila recently, and we're going to bring you that conversation here in just a little bit. Also, I had a ton of fun going over to, speaking of across the river, in Omaha at the World of Wheels, and a big thank you to Rick Graybill with Oxco Fabrication for being such a gracious host. I got a chance to see him at work. He had a lot of cool signs there, a lot of funny signs. It was drawing a lot of attention, and I know that the entire weekend was great for him. And I got a chance to talk with his nephew as well. His nephew's name is Dexter, and if you'd like to see that conversation, it's over on the other program called Morning Coffee, and you can see that conversation there. So anyway, that was a lot of fun, and a big thank you to Rick and everyone, and also my friend Chuck stopping by and saying hi there too. So thank you very much for being a part of things. This actually reminded me of something. Do you ever go on to FaceTime? I have an Apple, and an iPhone. You do this when you're on FaceTime, and it gives you a thumbs up icon and a little emoji. And I'm wondering why. One of two things happened. Either it thought I did it when I didn't, and it threw it up there, or it sees me doing this when I'm already on FaceTime and then puts it up again. So it just seems kind of redundant. I don't know why. Technology sometimes is a great thing. Other times it's a complete waste of time. And that little emoji creator, I think, would be one of those examples. Joining us this morning, someone who is doing something very similar to what we're doing here on the Iowa side, only she's on the Nebraska side. Sheila Jenkinson has a podcast called Growing Small Town Nebraska. And Sheila, thank you so much for taking some time and being willing to sit on the other side of the microphone.
Yeah, it's a little different over here. I'll say that. Good morning, Todd.
It is different, isn't it? I know I've been guests on other people's podcasts, and to sit and wait for questions to be asked of me instead of asking the questions, it's a completely different mindset.
Yeah, it's not that we're control freaks or anything. It's just that,
That's a kind way of putting it. It's not accurate. Yeah, I am a control freak. That's why I'm working for myself. I'm trying to remember where we first got connected, because I think that I don't know if it was on Facebook or if it was on LinkedIn, but it was one of the social media platforms that I first saw your Growing Small Town Nebraska site. And I thought, oh, well, she's doing the same thing that we're doing over here. I need to talk to this lady. And you were very open to making connections. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it was great to have you reach out to me. And you and I have such a similar background.
That's true.
I love doing collaborations. So yeah, I'm glad that you reached out for sure.
Take me back to when you first had the idea for doing this podcast. What was your vision? What did you see it becoming?
Well, so the Growing Small Town Nebraska podcast was born out of seeing revitalization efforts all around me. There's a complete movement throughout Nebraska that we've been seeing for at least the past couple of years, maybe longer. Maybe it just now got my attention. But seeing things like my hometown of Stanton had a downtown business coalition, and they were making huge improvements that needed to be done. And then I'm real close to Norfolk, Nebraska. And Norfolk is getting all kinds of crazy positive attention right now because of their revitalization efforts. They've won all kinds of awards. And so watching that and seeing the difference between what I grew up in and what's happening now. And for a while, that in between, when maybe I was away at college and away past college, even, and the small towns were taking a downward spiral, a downward trend. And that is changing, not for all of them, but for a good majority. So that's how it all started.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing here on the Iowa side too. That if community is forward thinking and they understand that we need to look at growth while still maintaining our identity, that can what is causing a community to thrive. There's other places where they went the other direction, and we're seeing that now. Uh, I'm seeing communities die that they were not thinking in that direction. And it's just, my hometown in all likelihood is going to become an unincorporated community because there's 45 people that live there. They can't afford to fix sidewalks. They can't afford to fix the water system. They can't afford to do anything. And that's what is so important, I think, about what it is that you're doing is that you're highlighting the successes. And as other communities see that, then they say, oh, we want some of that. And that's how the things can grow.
And I have seen that, and I've been told that it's a lot of idea sharing. Sometimes it ends in some collaborative efforts as well. And, talking about your hometown and some other towns that just aren't going to make it that way and I don't know if it was lack of foresight or if it was more lack of timing. The timing is really good right now. And I think there is such a positive spread of, I honestly think COVID and seeing the negative things that came out of it has spurred on a positive movement towards growth, collaborative efforts, and people building up each other's towns even. I think it's all in timing, a lot of
Yeah,
it.
I agree with the COVID part of it because there was a lot of talk that, oh, this is going to be the new normal and everybody's just going to stay at home. And my thought was, no, that's not true, because we're finding out just how uncomfortable and miserable we get when we don't have contact with people. And, I started a business in summer of 2020. COVID was still going on. And I opened it was still 2022 was when I opened my commercial space. And that was we were just starting to get close to being out the back end of it. And yeah, people were gravitating to be able to get out of where they were at and be able to go into a studio. I heard multiple times that, we want to be someplace else. So I agree completely that COVID exposed, I think, a lot of things that we didn't realize we were taking for granted.
Hmm.
And now it's still fresh in everybody's mind because it was such a dramatic thing. How similar do you feel what it is that you're doing is to the way your radio career was? How much similarity can you put into that?
Well, boy, that is a good question. I wasn't expecting that. Let me think about that for a minute. I guess the radio career gave me the confidence and the interview skills. I was morning show on two different radio stations when I started. I was news director for both of those for a couple of years. And I also had on the AM side of one of those stations an interview program much like this, which I was young and I was didn't feel as confident back then. And so that was probably my least favorite part of radio was when I would do that AM side and do this interview. And now, of course, I'm loving it. It's what I do. So I think that just helped me with that, the confidence, having that voice. And I think, and I'm sure you're feeling this too, because this is different than radio as well, because we get to control our narrative. We get to bring on our own guests. We get more talk time, at least I do, for what I was doing, it seems like, on radio. But I think that a lot of it is just radio helped give me the experience that I needed to be able to do the next best thing, the next, what is
Right.
podcasting.
Right.
So,
And it makes you comfortable with one of these things,
oh, for sure.
that because I can remember a time, and much, much younger, that it was intimidating to sit in front of a microphone because there was this thought of, okay, everything that I say is now going to be permanent. And we don't think about that. But it's, and you probably have experienced this too, of people saying, oh, I could never do that. And then you sit down and have an interview with them and talk with them about it. And at the end of it, I've lost count of how many times I've heard, oh, that was easier than I thought. All the time that I get these comments back. And it doesn't matter whether it's a city administrator or, a 10-year-old girl telling me about her book collection. It's all the same. And we hear the same things back. But this is a platform that a lot of these smaller communities like you're working in, people can learn more about what's going on there and learn about, there is real value to living in a small town and doing business in a small town.
There is, absolutely. And what you talked about is one of my favorite things with the podcast, especially when someone is so nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd, you and I do editing, but one of my favorite things is absolutely when a person turns that corner and they realize that we're not hard hit. We're not trying to do the hard hitting stuff anyway. Yeah. And I am always going to be leaning towards the positive. That's just what it's going to be about. So, yeah.
I think that's why I could feel that mentality coming off just what I saw before you and I had ever met. And that's what drew me to you, because I talk all the time on this platform, or if I'm just talking to someone in person, that if you want negative, there's plenty of places to go. That's not what this is about. We're interested in highlighting the positive. Not saying the negative doesn't exist, but what you pay attention to is what grows. That's my philosophy with it. And that's why I want to highlight all of those positive things, because there's so many that are flying under the radar, and giving these people an opportunity to talk about that on a brand new platform. And I personally believe I'm seeing, there's a local former morning radio talk show host that is now switching over to online, that because, he got caught up in one of those layoffs that keep happening inside of the radio industry. It's just going to keep happening more and more. And this is such a wonderful platform to be able to do that. And as you said, we can control our own narrative. We can talk about the things that we know are important to be able to talk about. So, yeah, as I'm preaching to the choir here, I can tell by looking at you. Yeah, you're saying everything I already know. What's this all about?
Yeah, but our listeners or our viewers may not know that. So one of the funny things you were saying about how being on radio, I remember being so nervous starting. And,
me too. Yeah.
In fact, it took me a while after graduating with the broadcasting degree to actually pursue it. And because I felt insecure about that. And you talk about radio and we thought it was permanent, that what was out there, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, podcasts are a different story, because the great thing about it is, we share those stories and it's not a one time and done. There they are. And so that's what I love about podcasts. It is something that once a person listens to one or sees one of yours, most often they're going to go back and they're going to want to listen to all of them.
Right.
And it just adds value to that for those guests that are sharing their stories.
Do you have, this is a cliche question, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there anything that you've done that really jumps out at you that, okay, this fits into the mold of exactly what it is that I'm hoping to do, that, with some of the different communities, that everything just went well?
Well, actually, I would say, to answer that question, I have a partnership. The Growing Small Town Nebraska podcast has a partnership now with the Nebraska Community Foundation. And so now I am able to put out 7 episodes a month, and 2 of those are brought to the listeners through them. And what's crazy is I had contacted them about doing a podcast episode. And they're like, hey, yeah, we'll record with you in Norfolk. We're coming to Norfolk. Meanwhile, they contacted again and they said, hey, we're going to be doing a bus tour 3 days starting in Norfolk. Do you want to just join us? And so I said yes. And so I hopped on this random bus with 30 strangers. And off we went for 3 days touring small towns, hearing the stories of revitalization and rebuilding, just like what I've been wanting to promote. And within, I don't know, a couple hours, I just looked at them and I said, I feel like I found my people. And they felt the same way. And so that is one of those things that has where I've been able now to share those stories in a whole nother way. And it kind of opened up the other ones to do more of the tourism aspect on some of those episodes. And so I work a lot with the Travel Association people and Midwest Travel Network. And so I would say yes. And then as far as a specific town, probably one of my favorites is Potter, Nebraska. Went out there on a tourism package deal to record some episodes, and I just they're out in western Nebraska. It's a tiny little town with seriously tiny area, tiny in population, all of that. They have so much, Todd, in this small area, and they have just the collaboration and the enthusiasm of the people who live there and what they've been able to do is outstanding. And so, yeah, that's the place.
I love going to places like that, tiny little town, and the people that live there are very proud of the fact that they're there and want to be able to showcase what it is that they have going on. And those are the easier ones for me to do anytime that I can land in and be able to talk with some folks like that. Where do you see this going for you? Are you like kind of cruising right now? Or are you trying to grow? Where do you see things headed?
Oh, what a question. So, this is just over 2 years old, and it took off right from the get go. Was going to be more like a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think because of the mission behind it and the positivity and those ideas sharing that we're talking about, it just was something that people connected with right away. And so it grew quickly. It was going to be 2 episodes a month. And then it was 4 because I do something called Sheila Shoutouts, where I'll go when I'm in an area and I'll go into the small businesses. Maybe I go kayaking and I highlight a park or a library or whatever it is. And a lot of small businesses, boutiques, uh, bars, restaurants, whatever. And so then that was 4 episodes a month. Well, then I added Growing Nebraska and Beyond because of the Midwest Travel Network and other things. I'm able to go into other areas outside of Nebraska and have kind of that collaboration and showcase some other things here and there. So that's another one a month. So that was up to 5. And then Nebraska Community Foundation came along. So I'm up to 7. So as just me, for the most part, I do have an assistant and I have an audio engineer. Both are college students. But I think as far as growth, I'm a bit capped out with what I'm able to do now in the term of episodes. But I don't know, you find your system. And I thought adding those extra 2 would be overwhelming. But honestly, you find your way and things just kind of keep coming my direction. I have turned a few things down, but as far as growth, I guess I really just want to continue to grow the listenership and the audience so that those who are sharing their stories through me have that good representation. And I'm doing a lot more speaking now and things like that. But my travel calendar is a bit crazy.
I know you'd mentioned it to me that, hey, I'm booked out for, I don't know how many months, and it's just solid. And that's the impressive part, I think, about what it is that you're doing, is that people are responding. And my belief is what they're responding to is your genuineness, that you don't have an ulterior motive going in and talking to these folks. It's strictly what you show on face value is what is all the way underneath. And people respond to that. We talk about, because I produce podcasts for a lot of other businesses and organizations, and we talk about being authentic. Be authentically you, whatever that is. Don't try to pretend to be somebody else because you think that's what they want to hear. Just be you and let your audience find you. And they found you quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, take it or leave it. This is what this is what you get.
That is awesome. Well, I tell you what we're going to do, Sheila, is in the notes and in the comments underneath where this is posted, we're going to get a link to your podcast so people can hear it. And, there's already people over here that are aware of you. You made a comment on a show that I had done recently, and there was someone else, hey, I've heard you. I'm from out in that area, and I've already heard you. You're doing great work. And you think we're in this big, giant, wide world, and it's amazing how many times those connections have already happened and we weren't even aware of it.
It is really amazing. I love it. I'll show up in an area for something else or just with my family. And now once in a while, it's kind of like when in radio, you couldn't go anywhere. It's not quite like that, but I'll hear, is that the podcast lady? So I guess I'm the podcast lady.
I think that's great. I think that's I would take that title.
Yeah.
That's proof that what you're doing is we said that has having an effect on people, but also, I still think this medium is early, very, very early in what it is that we're doing. And what's happening there is proof of the effectiveness and where the potential growth is across the industry.
Well, I think you and I both agree, and we're both good encouragers of others when people say, oh, I want to start a podcast, but I don't really know. Just start it.
Yes.
See what happens.
Yeah, there's so many things that I had a meeting earlier with some developers, and I told them, and this is true for anybody, we don't know what we don't know. And do you have any questions? And I said, I'm sure that I do, but I don't know what questions to ask at this point because, I'm wanting this new product to develop for me. I don't know where its shortfalls are going to be because I don't really understand what the entire thing is capable of. I just know that it's an important piece to have it. Same with podcasting. I've said many times, the very first show you do will be the worst show you do.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be okay with that. It's all right to not hit a home run right out of the gate because so few do. I mean, and so few that's the anomaly. You cannot count on that. That's like going and buying your lottery ticket, expecting to win instead of just hoping.
Yeah, there's no way that I saw this evolving the way it has.
No. And so, and again, congratulations on everything that you've achieved so far. And I look forward to being a witness to everything that's still coming.
Well, thank you so much. And I am looking forward to talking to you more and seeing what you and I can come up with some great things ahead as well.
No, we think a lot alike. So I think that that list is probably going to continue to grow.
Well, I'm enjoying all of your shows. I do appreciate you for having me on.
Big plans are in the works here at Les Hills Media and Podcast. We got a lot of things we are working on that we are hoping to be able to bring to the table. We've got some developers working on some things too. So I'm excited as to what's coming up in the very near future, not only with this show, but with other shows. And I'd like to invite you too, that if you ever have any questions about maybe doing your own thing like this, I'd love to talk to you. That's part of what we do here is we help others create and produce podcasts. Now, sometimes you can learn how to do these on your own, and we're happy to be able to teach and share that information with you. And that's actually happened. That we started off with one that I was producing, and then eventually they were able to just take it over completely on their own. And I'm excited when that happens. I think that this industry and this platform is still very, very new. I've talked about it before, but I think it bears repeating that the statistic says that 90% of all the podcasts that either have ever been in production or are in production now, 90% didn't make it past episode 3, and they stopped. And there's some reasons for that. And one of the main reasons is that people find out that, there's some work here. This is going to take some time. It takes time to grow an audience. It takes time to learn how to do this in an effective way. It takes time to find your voice. If you have co-hosts, it takes time to learn how to communicate with each other. It's different than having just a regular conversation. It is respecting and honoring the other person's time and learning how to go back and forth in a way that's not distracting and not talking over the top of each other. All of that takes time. And that is the reason why so many, the vast, vast majority, 9 out of 10, don't make it past episode 3. But what I can tell you is the podcasts we produce here have been going at it now for over 2 years. And I think that that is a testament to the people who are doing it, and also understanding that, there's a new saying that I seem to keep hearing over and over recently, is that you don't know what you don't know. And that is true when it comes to this. And for some people, it makes sense to have someone else produce it for them, which is something that we do. For others, it makes sense to do it themselves. I know that there's a company in Omaha that also is a big podcast producer, and something that excites me about what it is that they're doing is they're getting hold of these radio personalities that used to have morning shows, and they're helping them create a podcast and getting it out there. I'm not sure if you remember, for folks in our area, there's a radio station called Channel 94.1, and that is used to be the big party morning show, and they fired him for no reason that I can figure out. His ratings were pretty decent, and maybe I don't know what the financial end of the thing was, but still, uh, if you're doing well, you should have some kind of job security. And he ended up losing his gig, and he's starting a new podcast. I saw him announce it, and he's going through Hurrdat, and I think that that's great. Pat and JT, who used to be on Sweet 98 in Omaha, they've had a podcast now for several years, and they're doing well. So this is a platform for ex radio people if you're just kind of done with the industry, kind of like I am. And I think it's a very viable thing to be able to do. It's growing, and for folks in the radio industry, we already have a lot of the muscle memory on how to produce something like this, because I was doing radio, and so it was different than this is video, so it's a little bit different, but yet it's still, a lot of it's the same. And I was able to take everything that I had learned doing that and just kind of incorporate it into this. So if you are used to be on a radio station and haven't been doing it for a while because either you got laid off or you just got tired of it, man, I can relate to both of those things. Reach out. I'd love to talk to you. ToddStuder@gmail.com. All right, we're going to wrap things up on this Monday. Thank you so much, and enjoy the weather. Holy cow, if you are in our area, you're going to like it. We may see 75. I mean, it's supposed to be really, really nice. I need to get out on a trail someplace and enjoy some nature. That's my goal for today. So I will see you again tomorrow. My name's Todd Studer. Have a great Monday.